Sweeter mans, guys, sweeter mans. What's up, fam? It's your boy Demuir here, purveyor of all sounds underground. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel today, where I'll be continuing our economics discussion around who should get paid in your current economic situation. And what I mean by that is you're making some headway. You might have a manager or an agent or exploring actually engaging in these relationships as a result of the consistency and pickup in your gigs, and you've been able to put out a few releases, so you're feeling pretty good about things. So I'm doing this video because I want to make sure that people ask themselves these questions always, because the construct of the industry and how this works in terms of who should get paid for the content you create varies amongst various different situations. So that's what we're going to jump into. But before we do all that, what I need from you is that SLC. Hit subscribe, like, comment. More importantly, hit the notifications bell to stay in touch with the new videos that we have up and coming. Okay, so let's jump right into this. Point number one is to know your environment, your economic environment, that is. So it's one thing to know that you are, as the content creator, creating 100% of the content, be it that it's YouTube videos, music that you're releasing, as well as mixes that you're putting forward on different podcasts or whatnot, all of that, and you're actually the person that is performing at different gigs or on Patreon, streaming on Twitch, whatever it is. It's important that you know what economic environment you're operating within, because in some cases, depending on the size of the agreements that are laid out in terms of percentages for a manager, an agent, and other overhead costs, I've actually seen where people who have a $1,000 gig walk away with less than $100 after all the costs are taken away. That is like atrocious when you think about it. So that's like 10% or less that they're getting for making 100% of the content. So those things only happen if you're not constantly questioning what economic environment you're in, evaluating the performance of people within that environment, and making sure that you are comfortable with the assumptions being had in that particular construct. Point number two is a hugely and vastly important one, especially in local versus international DJing gig situations, but I'll get into that into a moment. But point number two is to assert your value. Always. Let me say that one more time. Assert your value always, especially if you know you've been putting the work in, you know that people are playing your music, you know that people are out there watching what you're doing at an international level. Local stuff is much more different, and I would say somewhat subjective, because it usually defaults to groups of people who are comfortable in working with one another and putting each other on. That's a completely different thing. What I'm talking about is the economics here when money is being exchanged. So from a local perspective, it's not unusual for promoters to say, oh, you're from Toronto, I'm only going to pay you this amount. And there's a certain level of ignorance attached to that, depending on who you talk to. And I'm not saying all promoters in Toronto or San Diego or wherever are like this. I'm just pointing out the facts that there is a difference between local versus international talent. And it often comes from the starting point of, you've heard Addy in my other videos say this, where you're dealing with flights, currency exchange numbers. So there's just right off the bat automatically different set of numbers you're dealing with when it comes to the conversation between local and international. But when it comes to you, if you are a person that is making significant headway at an international or global level, and you find yourself in conversations locally where someone says, hey, you're from the city, I'm only going to pay you $100 to play at my show while I bring in an international headliner that will likely play your music, and I'm going to allow them to walk away with more in their pocket than you. That situation, you need to evaluate that for yourself, because depending on where you are in your career, you may say, okay, for the time being, this makes sense for me because I can deal with the exposure end. It's awesome for me. I'm getting the value from there. More people will know about me because not too many people in the city and globally know about me as an artist and the value I bring to the table in this industry. So that might make sense to you in that moment in time. But fast forward 5 years, it might be a completely different situation where you played a bunch of different international gigs. People know you at an international level and local level. And it's critical here to, in my suggestion, in my opinion, to not accept gigs like that where they're undervaluing your value. And the reason is simple. It's because the moment you start to accept that undervalue, people start to get accustomed to that's what you charge, in that particular market. And believe me, there's different markets, like what you get paid for in New York versus Toronto or Miami is very different because the markets are different. And you certainly don't want a low number floating around out there, depending on your economic construct and who you have working for you. When you're producing 100% of the content involved and performing 100% of what goes down in these shows. It's just a very important point to make here that you will find yourself at times needing to assert your value. And I just have it on it by default. And I'm actually quite comfortable with someone locally saying I can't afford that. That's cool because it's below my value. And it might sound egotistical, but I don't think it is because I know the work I put in and I know my work speaks for itself, and I know who's supporting my work, who's playing my work on a regular basis, and what my network looks like. So it is what it is, but you must assert your value because you definitely do not want to be the person that says, I should have asked for more. Okay, and point number 3 is to look across your economic situation and the players within it, whether they're agents, managers, or whoever else you got on the payroll. You need to be asking yourself, are they doing one of two things or both? Are they hunting or are they killing? And it's kind of funny because I worked a job where the president of this company actually said this shit to us. Like, you're either out there hunting, finding or creating the opportunity, or you're killing. You're putting value out there that makes people want to be engaged with your brand, that makes them want to buy your music, that wants them to be very engaged at shows that you're at, that they will spend the money to be entertained by you on a regular and frequent basis. So that's it for me. Like, you're either hunting or killing. And if you're not doing either, or you're kind of just on the periphery of doing things that I know that I can be doing myself, which I'm very comfortable if someone isn't performing and I got to do something, if I got to write an email or draft up a proposal or a business plan, I'm prepared to do so. But my experience allows me to do that. It may look a bit different for yourself or other people who are watching this video. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, if I'm going to pay someone, you're either hunting or killing and getting it done so I can lace my pockets at the end of the day. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the economics of who should get paid in your current economic construct. Let me know your thoughts on this one. I'd really love to hear from you. The conversation doesn't have to stop here. I got an amazing Discord server where we have members joining each and every day, sharing a lot of great knowledge and having, a lot of advancement and opportunities for production and even sales on plugins and stuff. It's really cool. So check us out. Much love and respect to you. Peace.